All right. So we have another stream in us today. I actually did all the refactoring and updated the documentation and everything for Impact. So that, like, doing this pivot, we learned a lot. We had some really nice discussions. And now I've taken, I realized that global state management has its place and there are benefits doing only global state management, but there are definite benefits to having these decoupled stores and mounting them through the application as well. And that's what Impact represents. It's that mode of thinking. But the things we learned from that, so I moved back to that now, but what we learned from that pivot was I changed here to supercharging the React context, expose reactive stores on React context, wielding your state management with delight. We'll see if that will stick. But emphasizing that that's how you're supposed to use it with scoped stores, not as like a global state management tool. And this is probably not running currently. It takes some time for the playground to get the latest version. But I've updated all the examples. And in Learn, we now go from like the traditional context to store. And we talk about how a traditional React context depends on the reconciliation loop, but Impact provides a reactive context called a store. The store is just a function where you're free to instantiate classes, assign local starts pretty much wherever you want. The function will not reconcile, it only runs once. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, fuck. I forgot to remove that one. Let's just quickly do that. Go check out. We can just use. Let's see. Docs, learn, store, edit. Let's remove that tip. Where do I? Oh, come on. Commit changes. Create pull request. Merge. Okay, whatever. And then we move directly to scoping. So I'm just emphasizing better what's different about Impact. And we show that by creating this provider and showing that you can now pass it props, blah, blah, blah. And scoping stores allows you to instantiate state management related to specific pages, features, or even for each item in a list. You can start subscriptions and instantiate classes, which can be disposed with cleanup and unmounting. Blah, blah, blah. And I also updated the tip here. Another aspect of scoping state management is related to typing. Global state management typically defines null values for uninitialized state. With strict null checking enabled, you will have a lot of if statements in your code just to please the type checker. There is a misalignment with you and your code. This does not happen in Impact because of scoped stores. Yeah, so that's a small thing that came from the discussions. We, of course, have the new signal signature. That is, I feel very confident it is better. It's really nice to just read the code. There's not like I've been playing around with stores that has a lot of logic and there's so much dot value floating around and it just distracts you so much. And also having this callback, which runs in Immer, is also really amazing to just have that out of the box. And then I changed the data fetching to async. And I update a little bit with this pattern of like fetch data, stuff like that. And then I changed advanced. I removed the UI, deriving UI thing. I haven't thought about that using this version of Impact. So I think it's just more intuitive that you kind of mix and match whatever makes sense to you, as opposed to having guidelines on how to think about this. So when you're constructing stores now, you're just creating a function called app store whatever. This is how you type it. You return signals using getters to get like that implicit observation from components. You define private functions after a return statement, because then we focus on like what is the store really about, and what does it define, what does it subscribe to, and what public interface does it return. And then you have all the nitty-gritty details of how it updates its state and stuff. And then I'm stating compose the store using create functions, so that previously we defined this as use, but I think it's in conflict with using an actual store. And we're not like using anything here. So that's up for discussion. And anyways, it's just suggested guidelines. So here we can, like, if this store is pretty big, you can split them up into these create functions that basically are mini stores. And then you export a hook and a provider. Unless it is global, then you don't need a provider. Blah, blah, blah. And here it's kind of the full thing. And then when you're consuming it from stores in React, I'm using this authentication as an example, where it's really like, I think this, at least for me, this makes so much more sense. So you have like this API store that is global. Maybe you have like a global store that includes the API and other utilities. But here I'm using the API store as a global store. And the reason you probably want to use like in a global store is that you probably want some config for the API store. Anyways, doesn't matter, that you can like pass into a global provider or whatever. Anyway, so the point is now I just have a session store. And I can use the API store directly here. I use the API to authenticate, which is a promise. So the session is really, like in this case, I'm stating it's a user or it's null. And then we listen to any changes and we just call session so that it updates the session. And then we return that observable, and I have like a sign in and a sign out here. And now that we have the session store, we can use it in our top level component. So we have like an app session where we are consuming the session. And in this case, I'm not using suspense. I'm just looking at the status of the session. Is it pending? Is it rejected? Or is it fulfilled? Which means we have a value that we can pass into our app store provider. Because the app doesn't, as I state here, the app doesn't work without the user. So when we mount the app, we give it the user. And then as we can see here in the app store, funny app store, we have the props here, which says it requires a user. We can still use the API store because it's a global thing. And we get the user, and now we can subscribe to user updates and just update the user whenever it changes, and then we'll return that user as an observable. So again, like compared to like a global state management where you can just create this object of state and some actions, and then you can like do that, that's really, really nice. It's very high abstraction, very minimal. Like here you have just the signal, right? If you compare like just having an object where you define your state versus a function scope where you explicitly create observables with like variables, like that's lower level. But that's the thing. That's where in my experience, I've worked on so much state management complexity that these higher abstractions, just having state as an object and some actions to change that state, it just hasn't been. Things get a bit decoupled. Blah 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 blah. Okay, and then everything else should be updated here. So we are back to having a larger API surface, but like this is still minimal. So what I thought we would do is we would go into the family app again. Oh, where is it? Is this the family app? No. Oh, come on. Oh. Oh, I have sound effects. Is it playing? Anyways. So what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna clean fd git checkout main. What did I do here? Okay, there we go. Git checkout a new impact version, and then we're gonna yarn install impact react latest. And of course. And then we're basically just going to move these contexts into stores. And it's a very similar API, so it shouldn't take that much time. And we should be able to properly evaluate how well this works. So we have a global store based on... let's see, we're going to make it a folder because it's composing multiple things. Global store. Let's make this the index. Export function, global store. Let me remove this thing. Okay, so let's remove, close all, oops, not all, close others. Don't save. Okay. I don't think we actually need... Oh, that's interesting, because we don't really need the typing anymore of the stores. We should remove that as well. Let's just go and remove that, because that was because you need to pass... you needed to pass this return, like you had to pass stuff in the previous version. But now we have this internal dependency injection, which is really, it's kind of a dependency injection, but you can think of it as using the context. So you just use the thing you want, and then you get the typing from there. You don't have to pass that thing into another function. Let's see. Docs. Advanced stores. Edit. So we don't need to do that. What I do want to emphasize though, compository, which are called during instantiation of the store. That means that they can also use parent stores. Maybe we should... Yeah, let's just do that. Propose changes. Cool. Let's find our global contexts. So we're just going to copy this. And we're just gonna call this, instead of doing this, we're just gonna, oops. Oh, come on, export function global store. So we should be able to just do this now. And then we can basically move, we should be able to move everything over here. Let's try doing that. Yeah, we could actually, you know what? Let's see if we can just do this. Let's remove this. Delete. And then we're just gonna do this, bloop. And then we're gonna rename this to global store. And then we're gonna say function global store, like that. And then we need impact react use store. And we don't actually need to use global store, use store, global store. So we do this. Oh, interesting. Oh, there it goes. Cool. And then, wait, what happened to the other files? Wait, what the fuck happened here? Where are all the other files? Ugh. I can't believe this. Git clean. Fucking. Yes, whatever. Yarn and impact react latest. Okay, let's try again. Let's create a new folder called store. I'm getting annoyed. Let's move our global context in there. Now it's there. We'll rename it to global store. I wonder what actually happened there. Why is this saying weird? Function global. Oh my god. And this is gonna be impact react with use store and just use store. And let's see, export use global store equals use store and global store, like that. And then we're gonna change these. I'm gonna rename symbol on them, I think. But let's go through them. Let's start with authentication. Let me close this. And this is gonna be impact react instead. And we're gonna keep, I think I'm gonna do something that might be a little bit interesting. I don't like files that just has a bunch of types. So I accidentally hit this little, I don't know if you want to call it a pattern, but what you can do is call it, maybe you already do this, authentication types.ts. What's happening here? Is it the, I think it's the TypeScript server that's just completely out of whack here. Okay, so we'll do that instead. So we have a clean import type, use Firebase. Oh yeah, this is interesting. And we can talk about that when we hit it. Let's see, we do this session state. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a Firebase here. So here we actually pass in Firebase because this is just rename symbol, create authentication. This is just a normal function call, right? This is not a store in and of itself. We have our, let's clean this up a little bit. So I think, let's see. First of all, let's move this to our new private pattern. So we'll move that function below. And then this last status isn't being used. This should be like that. And then we're gonna just call this to update its value. And then here we're just gonna call it to get the value. And again, the reason we chose this function call version of the signature is because we don't spread. You saw already that we had the dot value all over the place. And also we can give it a callback, and that callback is produced from Immer, so we can use the mutation API. So that's a nice touch. We're gonna get this Firebase type shortly, but I wanna let's see, this cached authentication state. I think we're gonna create a function called create or get initial state. Then we're gonna take that. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. Initial state, and we're just gonna return this. And I don't think we need these collections here. They can be defined down here. Nice. Okay, so now we have a very clean clean function. Immediately see that it defines a state and it subscribes to onAuth changed, which handles the auth state changed. Which is nice. One thing I'm wondering here though is it doesn't matter. Like when I use the cached authentication, it will set a new object when the onAuth changed callback runs, which means React will actually reconcile again because I'm setting a new object to this signal. And I was thinking about, does that have a consequence? But of course, it doesn't, because it just reconciles like the family Scrum map, given that you're authenticated, and the store provider for family Scrum is just like a component, so it won't be affected by anything, and so on and so on. Okay, so that was authentication. Maybe we can go here into Firebase. Did I change it? Yeah, create. So we're gonna, this is a massive rename, create Firebase. And we're actually gonna export the type of Firebase equals return type of create Firebase. I think I'm exporting the types here, and that's fine. So I'm not gonna do, so this create Firebase isn't actually, it's not using any signals or anything. It's just a shit ton of custom abstraction to more simply work with the stuff I need, like the specific collections I'm using, like the converters of data and all of this stuff. And then we have the camera, and this is actually using some things. We're gonna call it create camera. And basically here we just want to change how we call it or how we change it. Oops. And I think we're changing it here. And we're changing it here. And we're changing it here. And here we're checking like the status, and I think further down we're also current state would be state. I also like this, it's very natural naming as well, because it's an observable, so you kind of naturally put current in front of it. It's like the current value, it's what it looks like now. So you don't get into this const state equals state. It's like it's the current state. So we can do this, and then we change the state. So you kind of say, I really like how this reads. It's like current state status is not not equal to start in. Now state is this value. It's just, I don't know, it's just a tiny. And then this was current state. Then we have state. Oops. Like this, which get its stream from current state. Nice. So that's that one. And then we have version. And I think we're going to move this down into a private function instead. Async function. Like that. Again, like it used to be on the top, now it's like way down where it doesn't, because it's not really important how you fetch the version. That's like if you really want to take a look. And then this has new. I think this is wrong. Like if there's, I only want to say you have a new version if you have a current version and the new version is greater than the current version. It's something weird about this. But I actually think it's working, so I have no idea. Like, because if you don't have a current version, you will have the latest version. So it's like, but then it's like which, oh, V1. Oh, I guess this should be opposite. Yeah, I'm not sure what that logic was. Oh wait, sorry, it was correct, right? So if the new version is called this, yeah, okay. I think this is the right way to do it. I'll figure it out. So we'll just rename this to create version. And then we have views. And again, we talked about how like it doesn't necessarily make that much sense to have any routing inside a store. But in this app, we don't really have a traditional router. I could introduce it and do it in the components. And I think it makes even more sense to use a router with Impact, because behind the routes, you mount the stores relevant for those routes. But you also have one global store maybe that's like outside, completely outside the app. And then you go to a route, you mount something. Maybe you do some data fetching from the global store before you mount the store for the specific page, so that you have some initial data when the page actually displays. Like it just feels very natural. But yeah, anyways, in this case, we're gonna do the same here. We're gonna do the same here with the type, like that. Oh, it's missing. Nice. And then create views. Cool. Oh yeah, and this doesn't need to use produce anymore, and it's going to use Impact React. And with Impact React, we do have current views. Current views. And here we can just remove all of this stuff. Like that. It's fine to use draft. Maybe I want to do that. Bloop, 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 bloop. So this is really nice to be able to. I think current is kind of, yeah, I don't know. Okay, so now we have successfully created our global store and we can start using it. And it should work exactly the same as before. This is nice. Now let's look at our next store. So that will be, you see here, we have this app context, but this should really just be app now. So let's try renaming that to app. And what's STO? Oh, did I create that? So let's, I wish I could see the emoji. It says hand pink waving. I guess it's a hi. Hi, Jesse. So let's move the next store in here. And I think we can just shove that into stores. And then we're going to call that the app store. And this app store is going to, let's say, global store. We're going to say it's not down. Use global store. We're going to import from Signal cleanup. I think we need both use store and create store provider here. I think it's fine to use props here. We don't need to like create a whole thing. Let's see. I'm just gonna, wow, this is a big one. Let's see. Use global store. So you can see everything's typed and dandy here. So what we're gonna do is that when we're authenticated, we're gonna mount, or we are already mounting the actual family Scrum app with the store. And here we are basically fetching all the data. So we have all the data here in the App Store. Because even though you're on the dashboard, a lot of the data is already on the dashboard, like all the to-dos and everything. But like groceries is not really on the dashboard, but you have a count of the groceries on the button. The dinners aren't, well, if you've chosen a dinner on a to-do, you need access to the dinners. Like there's, yeah. So in this app, we basically fetch all the data and keep it up to date using subscriptions. But we can clean this up a little bit. Global store, Firebase. But let's just go to the way to the bottom here. Yeah, and actually these two, they should be, I have generic utils here. Let's shove them in here instead. Timestamp comes from Firebase Firestore. Nice. So, oh yeah, so what we're gonna export here, maybe it is better, you know what, maybe it is better to actually do the export at the top here, because they're such simple, as you saw. It's like they are, it's really nice like we're using the function hoisting for all it's worth. We're using it here. We're using it for private functions. It's really nice. App store provider would then be create store provider app store. So yeah, these two are very simple lines. I think they can even be in front of the props here. We don't need a timestamp here anymore. Okay, so let's go, and I think we should create a function for this, that thing that's doing all of this stuff, and call it get weeks, and we're gonna pass in, I guess we can pass in this array. Let's see, get weeks, and then we're gonna take all of this stuff. We're gonna say function get weeks, weeks, which would be, well, it's basically, I know it's number. Doesn't really matter, but let's see what we can do about this. Oh, I guess it's string. And then this is coming from the utils. And then so what's happening here is that we're creating weeks, and those weeks are signals of the week, or it's an empty document if it's the first time you do something with this week. So there's a bunch of stuff happening here. I could probably clean this up even more. And here the week is a promise. So we're not like blocking the instantiation of this store. We're making the weeks like all the data is async. Like they are promises. They're consumed as promises from the stores. But since they are observable promises, I can use the use hook from React and in combination with suspense, and it's just like consuming the normal value, which is beautiful. And then if I need to actually access the this data in some logic, I can just await the promise and get the value. Because changing, like, data is async no matter. So if I want to make changes to the data, even though I would have the actual data, it would still be asynchronous because I'm not just updating the data, I need to push it to the server. So like consuming data as promises with the use hook from React, I think that makes a shit ton of sense because it's all async at the end of the day. We default to, yeah, as I said, I could probably make this a little bit better, but and the reason I'm updating the signal with a resolved promise is because it is a promise, right? I'm just replacing the promise with a resolved one. And the nice thing here is that the signal will make it a resolved promise. Like the use hook will immediately understand that the promise is resolved. It won't throw to suspense, and then the suspense waits a tick and says, oh, it's resolved, so let's just keep rendering. It doesn't do that thing. Okay, so now we have the weeks there, and then we have, let's see, let's call this, let's do this and return, and then say current to-dos equals to-dos. So, and since the to-dos, and this is so cool because since the to-dos are async, right? I have this derived, but since the promise is observable, I can check the status of that promise, and if it's fulfilled, I can access the data through the value and actually create the derived. So that means you get async derived, which is also pretty amazing. I'm really happy about that. And then we have groceries. We have cleanup of a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure if we can, how much we can clean up this stuff. This is also utility. Yeah, so we're doing a bunch of, oops. So what we could do here is, yeah, I'm not sure how much. Like I could do one cleanup. Maybe that's better. We can try it. So we do one cleanup and then we say previous week dispose, current week dispose. Like it I think it might be a little bit cleaner. And then we'll, this is to-dos. So this will be const dispose to-dos. Listener. I'm not sure how much better this is. These are the signals. I can use some oh my god, there's just so much stuff here. Do I need previous? Yeah, because I need, wow. Yeah, it's just a massive store. I can probably clean this up even more. But you know, we're not going, that's not what we're doing here now. So let's just keep it as is, clean up a little bit so we can like talk about the primitives and stuff, but let's not actually do a massive job here. So now we're gonna, and I'm calling this, like instead of dinners, I'm calling it like fetch dinners to emphasize that it's a promise. Yeah, Cerebral OG. I had a really nice conversation earlier today that like Cerebral and Overmind, they are like, they're global and declarative, which is a powerful concept because that's how your mind is as well, kinda. It's global and declarative. So if you think about just the debugger, having that state tab on the debugger, and you see all the state of your application, even the uninitialized state, right? Because when you're global, you need to define all the state, and if it's not initialized yet, you give it a null value. So it's there, but it's just null, right? But having that information, just diving into that state tree, imagine being a new member on the team, seeing that debugger, looking at that state tree, you get so much information about what that application is about and how you would make changes to it. And that's really great. But impact is, but it comes with a cost, right? And the cost is having null references to an initialized state, which is a hassle with TypeScript and strict null checking. You just have a shit ton of if statements all over the place, because you get these errors. Even though you know, for example, you initialize the user with null because you haven't got the user yet. And then every time you reference the user having strict null checking, it could potentially be null. So you create all these, well, typically I would assume you create these if statements all over to just say to TypeScript that, oh, by the way, I have the user. But that doesn't happen with impact because it separates the stores into multiple stages or whatever. Which it's part of its power. But then it doesn't have an explicit concept of state. It just has this simple low-level signal primitive. It doesn't have a concept of actions. It's just methods you return from the store. It doesn't have a clear concept of effects. Effects is just something you implement as a store or whatever. And that's harder to get your head around. And there's a lot more freedom, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. Okay, so we have get weeks, fetch image here. I think this is fine. And we could clean this up by, I think we could like go and get, especially the weeks. I think we could clean up the weeks a lot. Like we could return these weeks could be created with a function. Yeah, I think get weeks could really return this thing. Oh, maybe we could do that. Let's try that. I'm going to try something. Get weeks. So this would be the array thingy. And then we'll do... Why is this complaining? Oh, and this should be weeks. And then we do, let's see here, if we can at least shove it in here. Did that work? Oh, we need a disposer. Damn it. That's kind of annoying. So we could... I wonder if... So I think we can actually do this. I don't quite like it. Like technically this will work, but it will only work because we are synchronously calling get weeks. Yeah, you can't like call cleanup async, but you shouldn't really do anything async in the store anyways, in terms of like constructing the store. So let's call this, you know what I want to do? I want to have this, instead of get weeks, I'm going to call it create weeks. So I'm going to have this convention that if you do create, it means that you're synchronously creating something for the store. Which means that I don't think we even need this, right? Yeah. Create weeks. So if it's a function in another file, if it's a private function like we see here, it doesn't matter. What happened? Oh, let's see. Next week ID. There we go. Now it should be a little bit cleaner. So we have our collections here. Do we need, yeah, because we need them to define get the data fetching. So we have weeks, these image URLs. I want to put these up here because they are not signals. These are signals derived. Let's put groceries up here with like the actual signals. We have derived there, and then we have all the cleanup. This is pretty nice. Okay, cool. Sorry, I spent more time on that than I needed to. But let's see. I wanna. Oops. Cool. So that was, now we have global store and we have app store. And now the question is, what's the next store we need to handle? By the way, I need to keep some attention. It's very quiet at work today. Yeah, okay, no, we're fine. Let's see. So we have checklists here. We have, yeah, common components is something else. We have dashboard. Okay, so we can take current week to-dos store. Let's see. Why is this erroring? Is there any error here? There's no error. Okay, so let's move that. Use. Yeah, we also have assistant context. So let's rename this to current week to-dos. And we're gonna use current week to-dos context into stores, not API, but stores. I'm gonna rename this to current week to-dos store. And let's see, let's change this to React. It needs to be a use store. And like we could like these does not necessarily have to be their own stores. I could put all this logic into the App Store. That would be perfectly fine. It's just, yeah. Okay, what's the argument for? So, because this application, as I said, everything is available to you after you log in. There's no like mounting of and doing data fetching based on moving to certain routes or anything like that. Everything's just available after you're authenticated. So in that sense, it could just be two stores. It could be the global store, which has everything not specific, not requiring a user. And then you have the App Store, which basically requires the user. And then everything just derives from that. So definitely current week to-do store doesn't have to be its own store. I think, does it use any props? No, it doesn't even use any props. So I think we should follow that. We shouldn't create stores just because we want to wrap some piece of UI with it. We can rather say, create App Store as a folder, and then we can have like current week to-dos, and then we just create that. Yeah, because now we have App Store is, oh, sorry, that was the weeks. User family to-dos with checklist, fetch dinners, fetch groceries, fetch to-dos. We have weeks and we have fetch image URL. I guess you could argue like you want to make things, you don't want to blow up the surface of the stores, so you can split them up for that sake. Maybe we should make that argument now. That we really only care about the current week to do state management related to the current week's view. So that's why we have a different store for it. Use App Store. Create store provider. So this would be current week to-dos store provider. That's a long name. Export const use current week to-dos store. Current week to-dos store. And this is use App Store. Cool. And then we follow our pattern here. We do this. Yeah, I think that's a good argument. And the nice thing is that you can like still move that whole piece of thing around, right? You can like it's a component folder, and you can still move that around in the UI. Because the only dependency it really has is to the App Store, but that's like wrapping everything. So, okay, I'm not sure if we really need to do much here. Well, I guess we could make this. Yeah, this is. What is it? To-dos by week? Oh. Derive to-dos. Oh, sorry. Derive to-dos by weekday. And then we put that here. Function derive to-dos by weekday. I really love that everything's just available to you. Like you saw that I could just move it down, and it's not like you don't have any dis reference. It's all like just pointing to the thing that's in scope. And then this is a different one. So this would be derive events by weekday. Oh, it should be lowercase. Let's make this lowercase. And then function derive events by weekday. Just shove that in there. It works exactly the same, but now we have cleaned up this thing. So now you see immediately what's happening here. We're grabbing the weeks and fetch to-dos. I don't like this fetch to-dos. I think we're just going to call them. I think this was related to some previous naming. So we're going to change this to dinners. Rename grocery. Oops. And then rename this to to-dos. Yeah. Cool. Current week to-dos. Of course. Yeah, and here you can see I'm still so what I'm doing in this derived is that if the to-dos aren't loaded yet, we just return empty list of events by weekday. So it's pretty amazing to me that you can actually consume a promise in a derived. It's really, really cool. Cool. Yeah, so that's basically that thing. Oh, we have. Okay, let's just keep that type there. Okay, and now we have the assistant. Actually using AI in this thing. Okay, so we're gonna rename this to assistant. And then we're gonna move this into the stores. Where are you, stores? There you are. And we're gonna call it, rename it to assistant store. Let's take a look at that one. Close others. Oh, what happened here? Yeah, whatever. Close others. Oh, use App Store. Oh, hi Adam. Yeah, I did this crazy pivot, but I got a message from your, or comment on YouTube from your colleague that you're using Impact now, and so I was pivoting towards like making Impact just a general global state store, not having this like scope stores. And what I was chasing was really, I felt like looking at, for example, Family Scrum, which uses an older version of Impact but has the same concept. I was kind of mixing components and stores together. So I felt it was hard to reason about where is the state management located by like diving into your component folder. And then I remembered like version 1 of Code Sandbox, we just have this app folder, and you can just go into that app folder and you have the full state management there. And then for some reason, I kind of felt like, oh, is this because it's not strictly global? But that wasn't really the case. That was more like, how do you organize your files and folders? So, but I did a lot of like reflections and stuff. If you check the website, I just deployed like the latest stuff there. But what I'm doing now, I'm not done that pivot, like making it strictly global. It's still like scoped and everything's the same conceptually. But I'm taking this Family Scrum app and I'm refactoring it to the latest version. So we can talk about the other changes. And I'm putting it all into stores folder instead to see how I feel after doing that. Because then you do have these two entry points where, okay, dive into the components folder to see what the UI looks like, what it's composed by. And then if you're interested in state management, you go into the stores folder. And that's like up to anyone how they like it. But for me, there's something about going into a single folder and kind of dive into and just take it all in, all the state management. So let's see, let's just remove these. We'll find them again. So now I just moved the assistant store. So we're, let's see, we're going to create a types file for it. And we're going to export on types. And then we're going to take that type and put it in here. Oh, where's action coming from? What's action? Oh, interesting. Pages. Oh, yeah. I remember now. I have a little GPT in my app. Let's see. Okay. Okay, this should probably go in here as well. Nice. Utils. Okay. So just like before, we call it assistant store. this context stuff is very old. This was when it was called Impact App instead of Impact React. Create store provider. So let's export on use assistant store. Assistant store. Assistant store provider. Create store provider. Assistant store provider. Assistant store. And then this is use global store. This is use app store. Nice. Assistant state comes from types. Yes. So here we can see one of the things that changed. So maybe I can show you in the documentation if you're still watching. Let's see, signals. So as I changed the signature of signals, there's been 3 options for the signature of signals. It's been like the dot value that it used to be. It's been like get, set, update imperative, as if it's like a class. And then it's what Solid.js does, which is treated as a function. And I chose to go with Solid.js approach. And the reason is that when I was working in more complicated stores, I had so many references to dot value. Like everything was dot value. And it blurred, like it affected my ability to parse the information. So for example, instead of count.value, you do count. So you kind of replace semantic, is that the right semantics with symbols. And I think it makes it much cleaner. But there's another benefit to it, and that is it now includes immer under the hood. So if you provide, so you can just set like 10, 20, whatever here. But if you give it a callback, you get the current value. And this function is the produce function of immer. So if count was like if it was a list, you can do current push foo. And that just works. Like it's immutable and it just works. So you have a natural way of doing updates on complex values. You could do it with value. Like it's possible with TypeScript to make a function assignment to this count actually be like current. This would work, but it's very magical. I think that's more magical than having this. And it's cleaner. Like it doesn't have the dot value thing all over the place. Yes. So I guess that's that for you, that would be the change from this. I also, in the documentation, I reason about the API, like the reasoning why it was chosen. Just have to just my partner asking me to pick up the kids later. Grocery DTO. Oh my god, this is a huge thing. So here we can say status. Oh, we can say current state instead. And as I mentioned as well, I guess it's not related to the signature, but it feels very natural since these signals are observable, like their values change, that you use like current in your extraction of the value, like the unwrapping of the value. I feel that that's also like it's a minor thing, but when you call it as a function, it feels more like you're unwrapping the value and observing it, as opposed to just implicitly pointing to this special value property. Let's see. Messages. I think I remember that. Oh, look at this. We can do. Look at this. We can use push. Huh? Look at this. Current. We can do get completed message. We should be able to just say current push. Was it? Oh, sorry. I can do this. Can't I? Yeah. We just push all those messages onto the array. That's kind of cool. Let's see. Cons current state equals state. I'm not sure how much we're gonna clean this one up, but look at this. Now we can do messages current push, and we can just push this thing on there. Cool. Okay. Oh my god. We should be there shortly. And then we have current state again. Current state. And then we're changing the state. OMG, OMG. It's kind of cool. So there is this assistant, like a GPT thing, where I can just say, just state that we're going to do something, and it will actually automatically create a to-do item from it. Or I can say we need 5 bananas, and it adds 5 bananas to the grocery list. It's kind of cool, but it takes a bit of time. Hey, we should change the. Do I have the? Do we have the model here? GPT. Where do I have the? Oh wait, we're running it on the server. I should change the. Let's see, functions. Model GPT. Don't I run it on the barcode? This is old stuff. Where the hell did I run this? Oh, yeah, of course. Here we go. Create thread. Run thread. Where did I set the model? Oops, that was my token. Retrieve thread. What the hell? Oh wait, I'm using, yeah, of course. I'm using assistant, so I have to choose the, let's see, OpenAI API. Where is my, I want to try, do they have the new, where's my assistants overview? Where's my assistants dashboard? There we go. Oh. Is it the ends? Yeah, there we go. GPT-4o Mini. Nice. Add to do, create shopping list. There it is. It's kind of cool. Anyways, so is there anything we can do here? Kind of talking about, yeah, we should move this down. Yeah, that's basically it. Also this, yeah, this effect. Well, let's call this async. So this is another thing, Adam, if you're still here. Suggested pattern is that after a return statement, that's where you put all your private functions, because all of them can reference above the return. So the point is that if we can fix this one now, I think we're just gonna reference the function here. What does this thing actually do? Poll, I think it's like poll thread. Yeah, poll thread. Oh, did I do this? Let's see, let's take the whole thing. Oh my God. Poll thread effect. So the point is that you get this very clear overview of what does this thing do, because you see all the signal definitions. It's kind of constructor thing, what it triggers, and then you see the public API you return, and we could create more functions there, but then you put all the implementation details last, things that aren't that important to understand what the story is about. Poll thread effect. And the beauty is that with function hoisting, it just works, and you have a reference to everything you have reference to above the thing. So I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't think we need these. Do we actually need these? Yeah, those are only used here. Yeah, so we can just put them there. Cleaning up more. Let's call this, we're gonna have, oops, message. Message. I'll just clean up that one a little bit. Cool. So now we should see quite clearly what's happening here. So we create a thread, and then we have a poll disposer, and we have an effect that polls thread. And then we have some state, we have some messages you can send, and you can send tool output. Not sure why I do this from the outside. That's kind of weird. Probably a reason for that. Anyways, so that's the assistant store. And I think if nothing has popped up, nope, let's just continue. let's go and find, that was assistant, current week to do's, nice. Dinners, then we have edit dinner. Boop. So use edit dinner. Let's rename this to edit dinner store. So I think this one is a really good example of how this how this scoping benefits you. Use App Store. Because now we can just pass in. So I'm just saying, I'm just clicking something that changes the view into edit dinner view with a dinner DTO, potentially a dinner DTO. So either you have like a new dinner or you're editing a dinner. And when that view changes, the component responds to that, grabs that, checks the view. Oh, it's edit dinner. Let's mount edit dinner component by providing the edit dinner store. Let's pass in the potential dinner to that store so that you can do all the logic in there. And then you just have some UI that consumes all that craziness. Find it a little bit funny that you can't submit this. Like nothing happens when you submit. I think I'm missing something. Let's see. Create store provider. Use edit dinner store. Export const. Edit dinner store provider equals create store provider. Edit dinner store. I think I won't get through all of it. I'm feeling a bit tired. Why can't I just call it initial dinner? That's weird. Okay, and then we're grabbing some global store Firebase stuff. We're grabbing the user so we can get access to the dinners collection. And then we have a bunch of signals where we either use the initial dinner as the dinner, or we create a new dinner that you can edit. And then we have some validation going on here. And like we could have created separate signals for all these things, but it's not that complicated of a UI, so it doesn't matter. New preparation description. And then we call this with the description instead. So dinner.value. Oh yeah. Oh, this is nice. So we're gonna remove immer, creating some more errors. So we're gonna say dinner. Just gonna call dinner with the draft and then shove it in there. I also really like just calling it as a setter. There, I don't know. It's just something about it for me. Cool. Oh, this should probably be up here with the other getters. Uh, dinner. I guess we can just do this. Dinner value. Dinner value. Oh my god. And then dinner. Cool. What's this? Oh. Nice. And then you could argue, like, you could do this in directly in the component, right? You could use useState for this. And that's also like a reflection. But then you have things like validation, does validation. And at the end of the day, it is data that should be put into the dinners collection and be submitted to Firebase and stuff. So there's like, yeah, but that's like an internal debate. What should you put in useState and what should you put here? But that is basically the edit dinner store. Yeah. Let's see. Should we do one more? Current week to do's. That's all of dashboard. We have dinners. We move that. Edit dinners. Okay. Oh, edit to do context and groceries context. I guess those are the two last ones. I think I have a meeting. When is that? Yeah, meeting in 30 minutes. Okay, maybe we should just push through this. Let's see. So let's rename this to edit to do. And edit to do has a use edit to do context. Let's put that as a store. Let's rename that to edit to do store. And this is basically the same thing. React. Use store, create store provider. Use store, edit to do. Edit to do store provider, create store provider. Cool. I'm not sure why I just call it initial. It's kind of weird. So use global store. Use app store. So we have the same thing. Yeah, I don't think I ever finished the dinner thing. We're not really using that. We have we have a food subscription, food case, a package, food box. Oh my, oh my, oh my. I guess this is pretty boring for the stream. To do. Okay. What's also really cool here that I'm not really showing here is that this is a promise, right? So what you can do is you can create a signal for, we can do that for fun. So submitting, that's a signal that can either be a promise of void or it's undefined. And it starts as undefined. And then we do get submitting, return submitting. There we go. And then what we're gonna do, we're just gonna do this. So when we're submitting, or when we're setting the document, we're putting that promise into the submitting signal. And what you can do now is in the component, you can just point to submitting and check if it's pending. So you can say submitting ? Because you're maybe not submitting, dot status equals pending, triple equals pending. That means it's actually submitting, and you can show a loading state for that. And you can even check if it's rejected and then show an error for that. But yeah, that was just an example. But I guess we're done with that one. And then it's just, oh, we also have plan. Oh my God. Okay, I need to take a break. But hopefully this shows like how impact, well, I haven't looked at the components yet. We're gonna check that as well. But I think we'll just do a new stream tomorrow. We'll refactor the last parts and then fix the components and then see if the app actually works. And then we can kind of review everything. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, bye for now.